Hello, everyone. Yes, we finally made it. I think we got hacked by Skippy, and he didn't want us to reveal his location or any of his secrets. But we finally made it. The Warlock has fixed has fixed all the issues. Um, so if it's not too late for you guys, we're going to talk about all things Expeditionary Force. Um, this has been one of my favorite series of all time. Maybe my favorite sci-fi thing in general, and I have Nathan here to thank for getting me into it. Nathan, how did you find? Because I mean, obviously, I found it through you, but where did you find Expeditionary Force?
Funny enough, man. Found it through a mutual friend of ours, Joe Cooper.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So Coop was he's gotten so crazy about different books and fiction literature and things like that. So he'll go through all kinds of just the weirdest shit, just mind-bogglingly crazy weird stuff. And he just out of the blue stumbled upon Expeditionary Force, and he was like, yeah, this is the shit. You really should check it out. And so I checked it out and everything. And, well, I mean, the rest is history at that point. I mean, you get halfway through. To be fair, the first half is kind of hard to get through because Skippy's not in it. But you get halfway through that first book and Skippy pops up, and it's smooth sailing at that point.
Well, and I know, and I kind of sell people on it. And I don't know if you sold it to me this way, or if I just came out of this out of the blue. So you can tell me that I'm stealing your pitch, if this was the case. But I always kind of pitched it as, because we have a lot of people that in common, and then of course on my channel here, a lot of people like the Dresden Files.
Basically, the AI Bob.
Yeah. I pitch it as Bob.
Yeah, that's my pitch, man. That's exactly how I told you to get into it. I was like, this is a series about basically Bob, only he's absolutely magnificent and just the smarmiest little shithead, which I mean isn't far from the actual character in Dresden either.
A few people I recommend never.
Oh, that's just a tragedy.
Really? They gave up before Skippy came in? That's the worst. That
it
is
completely
so
changes
bad.
it. It completely changes the series. Like up until then, it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting sort of semi-hard sci-fi romp and everything. There's some humor with the whole Barney incident and Bishop and everything. So I mean, it's not super dry. It's not like excuse me. It's not like reading the Foundation series, which is a pretty cool series, but pretty damn dry, or anything like that. But it completely changes the paradigm once Skippy pops up. I mean, at that point, it's absolutely balls to the walls hilarious.
Well, yeah. Well, and also to me, the series becomes Skippy and Joe's relationship.
Oh, that's the heart of the series for sure.
So if you don't even get to the Skippy part, it's you. I mean, I guess I would say it's your kind of normal alien invasion book. If you don't get to Skippy, I mean that's how I would feel if you didn't get to the Skippy part. It's just okay. It's the Earth got invaded by these aliens. I mean, and there was a twist on it where it's like, who are the bad aliens? Two different sets of aliens attack. But yeah, I mean, Skippy makes all the difference in the world. I mean, that I personally haven't met anybody who gave up before Skippy came in. But like, why would you after Skippy comes into it? It's like, he is awesome, hilarious,
And all right, so that being said, here I got to preface with this, and it's the same with you and everything, but we've experienced it audiobook style. Yeah. R.C. Bray makes all the difference there too. he's absolutely perfect as Skippy and Joe, and the way that he'll play off himself and everything is just hilarious.
Well,
Now,
I guess I will have to kind of backtrack a little bit because you've been on with AP before in our first Dresden discussion,
right?
and he's went through all of Expeditionary Force, but I guess he tried starting with the books and he couldn't do it, but then like had heard that the audiobooks were great, and then he loves the audiobooks. So I guess
it makes
maybe
all the difference. I think that the audiobooks are what put that series on the map. Like R.C. Bray popping in there and then actually nailing him, and then his depiction of Columbus Day onwards and everything. Like that people have gotten so hooked on that as opposed to just reading literature. I mean, and sure, there are people that do. I mean, there are plenty of people out there that just want nothing to do with audiobooks. They don't want any of that. They want and they don't want to deal with anyone else talking. Like my wife, Melanie, she will not do audiobooks.
Yeah. So, my wife, I mean, Kelsey, she'll do audiobooks, but she also loves to read. I mean, we just did a video about, American Psycho, and she read it's not a really big book, but she did 400 pages in 2 days, and she works too. So, I mean, she loves, like, she'll say, I love the smell of books. That's
right. Oh yeah. Kind of like that weird picture type smell or whatnot to it. Yeah, but there's an experience there. I did that with another series, the Demonata series. I read every single one of those before there were ever any audiobooks available. And I went crazy on that series. I
mean, I'd love to have because I do a lot of audiobooks because of the job I have. I mean, I work
multitask.
So I get like autographed copies of books. I have autographed copies, multiple copies of Dresden Files. I have Brian King books. I'd love to get an autographed copy from Craig Alanson. But yeah, I mean, R.C. Bray is just he's so ridiculously good.
And it transcends this series too. Like anything that R.C. Bray does is fantastic. Like he's also the main audio source for.
He did The Martian. That's his big breakout.
That was his breakout. But he's also did. I cannot remember the name of this series. Something like Galaxy at War or something. It's like a kind of like a pastiche of Star Wars. It's everything. It is Star Wars in all but name because of the the copyright legalities and such. But he voices one of the main characters in that, and it's fantastic. It goes on for books and books.
Yeah, but if anybody if you're watching this and you're not sure exactly what Expeditionary Force is, it is a kind of a space opera. Is what a lot of people will label it as, but it is a expansive space exploration. Earth is attacked by aliens, and then this other alien race comes in and is trying to save us, and then we help and we're trying to go and defeat them.
Two things you have to say about this. All right, so first and foremost, the series slants a little bit further on the hard sci-fi side of things. So you don't have lots of magical hand waves. The sense of scale in space plays a massive role in everything involved. Like they will constantly talk about the speed of light being insanely slow, and work around that.
And that's a thing. Like I'm not gonna lie, I felt like I was learning, but in a fun way, because as
Space,
even
the sense of scale in space is ridiculous.
I mean, obviously, I'm a fairly intelligent person, right? At least I like to think I am. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. but here's the thing, like, you don't think about the speed of light being slow until
Well,
you're reading, listening, and you're like, well, obviously, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? If you're so far away, speed of light almost means nothing. You can't, if you're light minutes away and you have a jump drive where you can jump in immediately. I mean, and he explains all of this, and it's crazy because by the time you're, I don't know, 7 books in, you are like almost strategizing with them. You're like, okay, he can jump in, and then he can, of course you would be able to do that. Once you jump in, you can then shoot from this angle, and then and it's like you would have never thought about that as just a normal person. If someone just randomly asked you about space battles, you wouldn't think about all the stuff. Like, that's why after coming through Expeditionary Force, I am almost convinced I couldn't write sci-fi like that. Like, that kind of sci-fi. I'm like, Craig is too damn smart for me. Like, I think I'm gonna stick to fantasy for a while, because like I'll just keep writing my dark fantasy novels, and I'll leave sci-fi until I feel I know enough about whatever the hell is going on out here.
The thing that the typical person doesn't have, that makes it difficult when it comes to the concepts of space and the scale of space and the scale of light speed and things like that, is we don't have a frame of reference. Like if someone says, like, oh, we're gonna send a signal out to Pluto, like, the only reference you have is the goofy ass, planetary solar system of ours and everything, and it shows it. It shows the planets relatively close together, and they're not set to scale. You're not seeing how far away things are, how big things are, how utterly, mind-bogglingly massive things are. And he does a very, very good job of establishing and hammering in those frames of reference. Like, he'll discuss the speeds of which things are going. He'll talk about the different jump drives and how they will circumvent the speed of light at certain different gauges and stuff. Because again, this was the second thing I was going to bring up. When you talk about the series, you have to understand there are different technological levels, because what you have is you have 2 different factions of aliens, and they all have different levels to them. So you have the Maxalts, which are a hyper advanced, like, basically leopard looking cat people. They kind of look like what's his name, Tai Lung or something from Kung Fu, or was it Kung Fu Panda, right?
Yeah, that's what the evil kitties.
Then on the other side, you've got the Rindaloo, hyper advanced spiders, and each of those get client species that go down in different tiers. So if these 2 are tier 1s, the tier 2s are what is it, Theranin and Drapta, right? So the Theranin are like well, there's a few different kinds, because they also have what the hell are those bird ones called again?
Oh my god.
Either way. So you got these different tiers here. So these guys at the top, they are, wipe your entire planet away in the blink of an eye, ridiculous badass mofos. And then underneath them, you got, the different tiers. And then after the tier 2s, you got tier 3s, which, they can't even, their jump drives aren't powerful enough to even go interstellar. So they have to have, the tier 2 guys drag them around and such. And then you got the tier 4s, which are humans, nothing. We are at the bottom of the totem pole.
Well, and that's what I kind of loved, because, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's kind of the way it would work, if there was, if there's life out there, and this would, if one species hasn't dominated the galaxy, or dominated, dominated the universe or whatever. I mean, it would definitely be that way. You'd have people underneath people underneath people. And I loved how they described, like, yeah, they have to dock onto one of these other ships to actually.
That was their
name. The Bosphoroc, yeah, the damn birds. Oh, and they hate the Theranin, don't they? The Bosphoroc, I remember.
The
even though they're on the same side or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. When it comes down to these different tiers and stuff, these different factions. Well, first and foremost, the two top tiers, they don't fight each other, because if they fight each other, things worse than either of them will come out, and we'll talk about that in a second, I'm sure, and just fuck everything. And then, like, what they do is they'll tell their lower tier people to go out and do shit that they want done, and then those people will tell their lower tier people to go out and do shit. And like, basically it's a
proxy war.
Yeah, it's a proxy war. I mean,
it's really it's the U.S. and Russia is kind of what it is, because we can't use nukes or it's over. And they can't use their most powerful weapons, because then, then they risk awakening, the Guardians and and the fucking the bad stuff.
All right, so since you opened that can of worms here, we got to talk about the Guardians and what they are. So, all right, so as we were saying, the different tiers here, like the Maxalts and the Rindaloo are tier 1. These guys are the kings of the galaxy. There was a race that came out before them called the Elders, and they find these bastards' technology all over the place and stuff, and either try to reverse engineer it or end up blowing up planets when they fuck it up somehow. Well, these guys would be tier 0. They're all the way up here, like
nearly god level.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or at least Skippy would make them out to be nearly god level.
Initially, sure. I'll say initially.
Even I don't know if it was in the first book, but it was definitely in the first few books where he talks about they ascended, they're gone. That we knew early on that they existed, that there was some elders used to be around, and then it was kind of revealed that through Skippy, it's like they ascended, and we didn't even really, for a while, we didn't know what he actually meant by ascended. We were still kind of guessing, like, what exactly do you mean? Are we talking about like they just like uploaded to some higher thing, or space magic? Did they just, because I want to say that it wasn't that what the Asgardians were trying to do in Stargate.
Stargate. No, not the Asgardians. They went in a whole different. You opened this can of worms. I'm just telling you that.
Go ahead. Keep going.
The Asgardians went down an entirely different route than that. The Asgardians are tiny little gray people. They went down a technological path where they kept trying to perfect cloning so that they could re-upload their minds into new cloned bodies again and again and again. And they ended up going down. It became a dead end. Their bodies kept getting more and more degraded to the point where they were literally sexless little gray people. And more or less, yes, exactly. The Asgardian in Stargate would be the Theranin, except on a whole different technological level. Now, the ones you're thinking of are the Ancients. They're the ones that ascended.
Yeah, because I love how Craig like how he describes like different species act different ways, right? Like the Theranin, they're all about technology. They just want, the only reason that they're not freaking robots or whatever is because of the Maxalks. Yeah. Looking down on creatures that would do that.
If they went 100%, Oh, absolutely. I absolutely believe it.
Yeah.
It was a
Oh,
huge
it had to
inspiration.
be, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
Stargate influenced so many things.
because it is God tier.
I mean, I as I was listening to Expeditionary Force, I mean, I couldn't help but think about Mass Effect a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I bet you anything that influenced the series too. I mean, Craig was going around picking up the best aspects of all these different sci-fi franchises and making Expeditionary Force, and it shows. I think. I mean, the series is just absolutely fantastic, and the way that he implements things. And one thing I wanted to bring up here that I think appeals to a very specific demographic of people, but the series can be, in my opinion, can be distilled down to it is a series of logic puzzles that um, get presented and then get executed. So the selling point is Skippy is, well, I guess we have to talk about Skippy here before we can go to that point. But so Skippy is an AI made by these godlike elders. So he's an elder AI, as he keeps saying and whatnot there. And initially in the series, he could not communicate with any tier 2 and above, or sorry, tier 3 and above species. If you had space flight, he could not talk to you.
I thought was it space flight or was it faster than light travel?
Well, I guess technically it would have to be faster than light travel because we do have shuttles, don't we? So it would be faster than light travel. If you had FTL, he could not talk to you, and as far as you would be concerned, he would be a piece of inert crap garbage tech, or just garbage.
Yeah. I mean, and a simplified way to talk about Skippy from a basic standpoint is he is the problem solver for most of the issues that
Joe I don't know.
Well, hold on. Let me finish.
All right.
He's the problem solver for most of the issues that Joe Bishop, the main character, runs into. But he's not, at least most of the time, he's not space magic. It's I fixed it. There's a lot more nuance to the character, even in the beginning, because by the end, Skippy is, you love Skippy. I mean, Skippy is as deep a character as anybody in fantasy or sci-fi.
He's a dick though. Like you have to admit this.
Yeah, but like
you're gonna love him, but he's gonna do some shit that's gonna piss you off.
Yeah, but the way that Craig uses him is he has to keep. It's almost like he has to keep unlocking powers, right? And unlocking ways and cleverly and well explained ways of defeating problems. It's not just like like a lot of sci-fi stuff where it's like, oh, you have an artificial intelligence. Oh, well, Skippy, we're running into this. We're running into this problem. Oh, never seen this problem. Oh, fixed it. Don't worry about it. Like, no, he like sometimes he's like, I can't do this, and then they figure out clever ways, and it's almost like at one point he rewrites a whole new way of doing math, and he explains to you how he kind of did that, and you love it. It's like, man, it's just so hard for me to. Because the series has been going on for so long, and it's like you feel so much for it. You want to get excited when you're telling people this, but you don't feel like you're like, I'm not explaining to you just how awesome it actually is.
So, one thing I got to say about that aspect. So when it comes to Skippy, he does not have powers as the plot demands. That's one of the things that I want to preface, because it does sound like that, on surface level. So the thing about Skippy is for the most part, they establish what he can and can't do right off the rip. Like his most versatile and useful ability, the one that really sets him apart, is he's able to create micro wormholes. Now, we're talking about something that is so damn small to be practically subatomic, but, he's able to implement these things in such creative ways is he can emulate faster than light communication because the wormholes are still connecting. So you can still send radio waves and things like that through them. So he can stick these damn things in certain different places and keep them running. And, it would allow the humans to communicate in a way that even the tier 1 species cannot do. They can't communicate faster than light in any capacity. And one of the things that everyone's trying to figure out is how the elders' communication nodes worked. That's one of the things that Skippy ends up, emulating and messing around with the other advanced species with. Is he'll emulate that kind of shit. He ends up. Now, one of the things that you have to understand with Skippy is most of the time he has absolutely no idea what he can and can't do in creative ways. Like he's creatively sterile. He's got all of this crazy ass knowledge and all this badass, math in his head and things like that. And he can do all these crazy calculations, but he can't do things like, think outside the box. He's not a lateral thinker.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that kind of ties him to the way we think of computers, where, computers have way more processing power than us, but they don't have the creativity that we have.
Now, that's not to say he stays that way, but initially he definitely isn't that way. And that's where, Bishop comes in. He's the lateral thinker. So to use an example to pull from later in the series, I won't be super specific about it, but eventually there's a scenario where they need to disable a super advanced ship that they can't even remotely come close to. They can't do shit to this thing because it's a tier 1 species ship. And you have to understand one thing about the humans in this series. They are dumb as hell. And at the beginning of the series, they end up commandeering, using Skippy, a Thoranin, which is a tier 2 ship, like a cargo ship. They end up commandeering this damn thing, and it's pretty much the main human ship throughout, 70% of the series? Maybe around there?
60 or 70%, yeah.
So, and this ship is not a powerful ship. The big thing it has is its FTL drives. They put this thing through hell, by the way. But
they're pirates.
Yes, exactly. As far as, the vast majority of the series, they don't even know humans have any kind of FTL capabilities whatsoever. They're going around fucking with all these other tier species, tier 2 and 3 or 3, 2, and 1, messing around with them and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But again, they have to disable a tier 1 ship, and they have no way of doing it. And Joe is just in the mess hall eating cereal or something, doing something stupid. And fluffernutters. He's eating his fluffernutters.
Come on, you know what he's eating.
And he sits there and he sees somebody use a bagel slicer. And, he's like, shit. You just sliced the bagel in half. Yeah. Why can't we do that with a wormhole?
Yeah. And that happens with Joe a lot, is he'll see just everyday things, and then he'll be like, Skippy, why can't you just do this? And Skippy's like,
well, because
I hate you. I hate you existing. Why couldn't I think of that simple, stupid thing? And that is a running theme, because all these top tier species have been around for
a few 100,000 years.
the Rindaloo have been around for what, 400,000 years? They've been traveling space for 400,000 years.
Mm-hmm. Something around there.
And the Max Zalks have been around for 100, been doing it for 100,000 or so. And it's like they've been doing this for so long, fighting each other for so long, that they have this established higher view, almost like our computers versus the Antikythera mechanism. You know, they're like, this is just how it works, and we're dumbasses down here just going, oh, why wouldn't this work? You know?
Yeah, we don't know what not to try.
Yeah, we're like, why wouldn't we try this? And then Skippy's like, nobody would have thought about this because it's so dumb, but it's so dumb it works. You know, because it's a gap in the thinking, because no one's thought about that for 50,000 years. You know,
so one of Skippy's crowning moments of awesome to me, in my opinion, is when Joe asks him to do something that, I mean, honestly, I think most of us would probably think of at least once. Doing it is a whole different thing, but so the merry band of pirates, as they're called, find themselves in a situation where they are being closed in on by the tier 1 species. They don't know it's humans messing around in this phantom ship, but they're in a situation where their ass is against the fire. They have nowhere to go, and they can't get to a wormhole to run away because the wormhole's being surrounded by max salt ships. And remember, this is a tier 1 species. We couldn't touch them at this point. So Joe looks at Skippy and says, well, why can't we just hyperspace jump through the wormhole? And this question breaks Skippy's brain, because it's like, well, there's plenty of reasons why you can't do that. And remember, this series is pretty hard on the sci-fi. So like he's going and explaining the spatial movements, space, the positionings, where you're going to be, the temporal effects of a hyperspace jump and things like that, going through a wormhole. There's all kinds of crazy shit involved in this. But Joe again reiterates, well, are you telling me you can't do it? And Skippy is anything but humble.
He's an egomaniacal son of a bitch.
So if you present it in a way of, well, you know how, but can you? And he'll find a way. And this is what earlier in the stream, when Joe was talking about inventing a whole branch of math, he did that in that, in those, it was a few hours, maybe something around there. I mean, and keep in mind, this is an AI, so we're talking like, could have been like hundreds of years to his age.
Yeah, I mean, in Skippy time, it was probably took him hundreds of years, but and that's another thing too. Like with AIs, Skippy and any other AI, their processing is so much faster than us. 1 second to us is like 10 years to them. If they
like up clock their
if they're really trying, when Skippy's, he's like, because Joe will say that all the time. He'll be like, Skippy will be like, you have to give me some time. And in your human mind, you're thinking, okay, he's gonna have to take a few minutes here to process. And Joe thinks the same way we think. He's like, all right, you need some time. Okay, we'll calm down. And then Skippy goes silent, and then for like a couple seconds, and he's like, Skippy, so how long do you think it's going to take? I already did it. He's like, what? You said it was going to take some time. It's like, it's been like,
you got to get with the program, Joe.
But again, like, we're not like blowing up spoilers here, at least not yet. But like, if you're just if you're listening, you're like, well, what does Craig Alanson do really well? And what he does several things really well as a writer. As we're kind of going through this, he really does instill, because again, we're working our way up the ladder, and he really makes every level of technology and aliens and whatever, every single level that we run against, he really makes you fear them. And you really do have this thought of, man, we're like, how are we going to overcome these guys? And so, every book, you really do feel like, there's no way we're winning. There's no way we're infiltrating this. There's no way we're beating this ship. And so because it could get to a point, you think after what, 10, 12 books or whatever, you'd be like, oh, well, it would just always feel repetitive. He really does kind of keep you in that fear of, until maybe the last 2 books.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are probably 2 books in there that feel kind of repetitive, but I mean, that's saying something when you have 15 books of this. And the way that he keeps it fresh is, you'll have situations where, you'll have to do something to a tier 2 species that's, I mean, he'll inject espionage in there. And what keeps it fresh, I guess, is the best way, so I don't ramble on about it. What keeps it fresh is he is an expert of really hammering home the law of unintended consequences. They'll do something, and then the logical reverberations of that action will start to play out, and then they've got to go and they've got to fix that issue that crops up from their previous fixing of a problem, so forth and so on. And he's really, really good at doing that.
And like, I've had people, this last year, has been by far my biggest reading year. I think I did 60 books in 2022, something like that.
Joe, how can you read so many books when you ain't got no sense of smell? I love that. I don't care what the damn walk hard. I will always remember that. It's so ridiculous. Anyway, how can you play the guitar when you ain't got no sense of smell? I learned how to play by ear, mama.
Oh my God, you're ridiculous. but like I've done like 60 books last year, right? And people will be like, well, what does Craig Alanson do best? Like, what is his top tier skill as a writer? And it is dialogue. You will not convince me that anybody, maybe somebody writes as good, but nobody writes better dialogue than Craig Alanson. I mean, I think his books have more dialogue in them than any book series I've ever read. I mean, there is so much talking, discussing, and he makes it feel so real and enjoyable. I mean, I like dialogue in pretty much, you gotta have it, right? You can't go 10 pages and like nobody's talking. There's been no dialogue. But like his dialogue always feels fresh and engaging, and he does humor maybe as good as any writer. I mean, I love Jim Butcher's humor. He does great humor. Joe Abercrombie does great humor, but Craig, he just just Skippy and Joe's banter back and forth. You really feel like by the end of the series that they really are best friends and or like brothers.
I got nothing to add to that. I agree.
Yeah. But and he also is able to make you feel through Joe, somebody that doesn't really believe in himself. Like Joe never thinks that he's the best, and that to me is always great in a book. That's always like, people are like, well, what do you look for when you go in a book? Like if somebody tells you this is in a book, like that's going to make you want to read it. And for me, it's somebody who's always questioning themselves, but is on a trajectory to try to save people, or save someone, the one he loves, well, in Joe's case, the planet, plus all the people he cares about. And he's always second guessing himself, but he never gives up hope, and he's always grinding to find the answer within himself.
Yeah, that is very true.
But try not to go into like too heavy spoilers, but like the different types of aliens, and again, R.C. Bray is amazing. If you're doing the audiobooks, like a lot of people do, he really brings them to life. But initially we have lizard people, right? Of course there were lizard people out there. I mean,
the Christang.
The Christang, yeah. And I always thought, like, conspiracy theorist people would be like, of course there were lizard people. You had the lizard. We started off with lizard people and hamsters, right?
And the hamsters were the pricks that came and just started. They came to Earth and just fucked up our infrastructure royally. Just started bombing all kinds of different infrastructure places. Then the lizards came in and kicked their asses, and they ran away. So we were all like, all right, these lizard dudes are pretty chill. I like these guys. They're pretty cool. They want to take a bunch of us to another planet, and train us up and give us all kinds of cool shit. I mean, hell yeah. They blew up these damn hamster pricks, so they can't be too bad.
Well, and the thing I love about...
Spoilers. They're Nazis.
And the thing I love is at the beginning of this, he introduces like technologies that we think we could do if we put all of our resources into it. Like, there's a space elevator that they create to lift us into orbit, into orbit and shit. And when you're doing that, like Joe thinks that the space elevator is the craziest thing he's ever seen when he gets on it, and all the rest of the Marines are like, "Oh man, this is crazy. This space elevator thing taking us up." And as you get further in, you're like, why was he ever making a big deal about that? But that's the great thing. Like, he really makes you appreciate every step up in technology through this long book series.
A great example of this. So the humans start getting a little bit bigger than their britches. A few books in, they start getting pretty cocky, and Skippy has to smack them down into Humbleberg again, because
he needs to lay the smack down.
Yeah, and Skippy does this by going, well, he's constantly telling Joe that he's an idiot, he's stupid, he's a dumb monkey. But he goes, all right, bring the smartest person on the ship here. And then they bring the smartest scientists
God,
to the ship. And he goes, all right, so if you guys think that you can run this ship without me, because they were talking about like getting rid of him and running the Theranon ship. He goes, okay, explain how that door handle works.
Yeah, the doorknob. How does the doorknob work? How does the toilet work?
And the scientists are all like, all right, well, we got an idea how it might work, but we have no goddamn idea. And that just shows it goes to show you humans are genuinely just too stupid, at least at this point. They just don't have enough greater scientific knowledge to actually work anything. So if Skippy wasn't there doing damn near everything on the actual ship, it would be floating out in space and we would just all die.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing too. It's like, for most of the series, Skippy is making everything run in the background. Without him, like you said, without him, the ships fall apart. And that's another thing I think Craig does great. It's like, yeah, like some lesser writers would just kind of have you believe, oh yeah, we jumped on the alien spaceship, we stole their ship, and now we can run it. Like, no, you wouldn't be able to run it. You would have no idea what was going on inside of a ship from an alien species that is 10,000 years ahead of you. Or
I mean, honestly, let's be fair here. Humans, if we were to commandeer any ship, the odds are we would probably try to like take a dump in the coffee maker or something. Like, this looks like a hole. It looks like a bathroom. No, that's how they make their coffee, man. Stop. Please just turn around and walk away.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so
like that.
So first we're introduced to the lizard people and the hamsters. Then we're introduced to the grays or little green men, however you want to think of them as. And then we're introduced to the Beatles. And
the great Beatles.
So you have the Theranin and you have the Giraffe. And they are absolutely the best characters in the book.
Easily. I mean, yeah, I love the human characters and Skippy and everything. Well, Skippy and Joe, they're the heart. They're the best. But let's just put it this way. The Giraffe are an entire species. Like so in sci-fi, you tend to have like planets of hats. You know, this is the planet of all the people that wear the red hat. You know, like, or to use an example, the warrior race. That's their hat. They all wear the red hat. The warriors. Well, the Giraffe's hat is they're all hedonistic gamblers.
and honestly, when he first introduced them like that, I'm like, how are you going to be able to make that interesting for more than a book? Really? But it is amazing how awesome these guys are. And how he twists gambling into everything, and it makes sense. He's like, they just want that juicy action, and they're willing to sabotage. They are the best saboteurs because they want to fix the gambling thing. The most secure, like computer in the galaxy. I mean, even the upper races are like, damn, this is really secure. And the reason it is because it controls all their gambling. And they're like, that's the one sacred thing to them, the gambling. And I'm like, this is insane. And I love it.
All right. So one of the big branches of the Giraffe, the political party and everything is, or their military, I guess is a better way of saying it, is the ethics and compliance group. Ethics and compliance are our version of black sites,
and they have absolutely neither of either.
They don't comply. They have no
ethics.
But these guys are the guys going out there and sabotaging everything. They're rigging shit. They're oh god, they just do absolutely everything. All the most ridiculous shit you'll ever read are just the damn Beatles. And that's what people tend to say. Someone just created a hologram of a giant fleet of battle cruisers. It was the goddamn Beatles. They'll do all kinds of weird, crazy shit, and you'll love every damn second of it.
Yeah, and nobody loves to party like the Beatles like to party. What is the Burgos? They love a vintage Burgos,
which apparently tastes like shoe polish.
What do you say? Pine Sol, maybe?
Pine Sol and shoe polish. It's some ridiculous ass thing. And what's really funny is when it comes down to the Beatles and Burgos, it's a male drink. The male Beatles love that shit because it's super sweet, and apparently the males like sweet liquors. The female Beatles can't stand that shit. They need something a little bit more earthy, like motor oil or some ridiculous shit.
Yeah. And that's the thing I love about the Beatles is they and we kind of find out later throughout the books that they are actually kind of sandbagging. Like they are purposely not trying to. They could have risen up higher and maybe even
That's just more
like
work.
they could have actually tried to ascend to maybe to the Max Salk's level. I don't think that they would have gotten to the Rindaloo, but they're just like they just kind of say, we don't want to attract any more attention than we have to, but we're just as smart as the Max Salks.
And that right there, I mean, yeah, the when it comes down to it, those guys are probably, besides the humans, the biggest wild card in the series. And because eventually the Masquerade is lost. I'm not going to be specific, but the Masquerade is lost, and they do learn that humans are doing a bunch of shit out in space and everything. When that is revealed finally, the Beatles start betting juicy action on what crazy shit we do.
Well, and that's another thing too. They love us because of our sports. Like,
No. What is it called? Fantasy sports.
Fantasy sports.
Yeah,
they love
fantasy got sports, but no one else has invented fantasy sports. So that's what has them going, holy shit, these humans are geniuses.
And I think even later in the series, when some things start happening at Earth, the Dratha are like, we're going to we need to make sure that your sports keep playing. We're going to give you resources to make sure your sports keep playing so we can still have fantasy sports. And I'm just like, it sounds goofy as shit, but it works. Craig makes it work. It makes it seem like, yeah, that's totally something the Dratha would do, and it makes sense.
Oh yeah, like they're, in a lot of ways, they are one of our greatest allies and everything, because they're like, you've really pissed off the top tier species, and they really want to kill and destroy everything involving humans. Now you've really, really rubbed them the wrong way, but you have fantasy football, and I'm gonna give you everything I can under the table to keep you guys going, so you can piss them off more, because, well, fuck them anyway, and give us the fantasy sports. And then, well, what the hell did there was something that they discovered that we had, like, I think it was Pine Sol or something that they were drinking, and they're like, holy shit.
That's towards the end. Yeah, the guy, he puts together some like random ingredients or something, and they're like, this has no nutritional value to us, but it tastes delicious.
Goddamn Dratha. Oh my god!
But one thing I did notice throughout the series is and it's not black and white. If you're kind of watching, if you're still you're still here with us, it's not really black and white that one side is good and one side is bad.
They're all bastards.
But if you want to look at it like that, the Max Salks are the bad guys. The Rindaloo would be the de facto good guys, even though it's not really like, they're so complicated. But if you branch down where species are under each layer, the Max Salks, he shows more people underneath the Max Salks.
Yeah, they've brought in more.
I don't think it was Fluff, was it?
Oh no, I think no, it was Fluff.
Was it
they
Fluff?
were like he took it, he like licked it or something.
Oh yeah,
that was really spicy.
Yeah, he thought it was super spicy. Yeah, you're right, Morgan. Yeah, because he was like, "Do you have any more of this?" And he gave him like a whole case of it or whatever. And he's like, and I forget who it was. Was it the guy from the Ethics and Compliance? He goes, "This is gonna be a hit."
Goddamn freaking Beatles, man.
But like, now I'm thinking of now I'm thinking about. Oh yeah. The point I was trying to make is, Craig expands more on the dark side of the bracket, if you want to call it that, because he shows you the boss frog, and then he even shows you who were the squid people. They were in it a couple times.
Trogalu?
Yeah,
Trogalu or something?
Yeah. He shows them, and he mentions one or two more. But really, tell me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm not remembering, but really you only had the Rindaloo, the Draptha, oh my god, the
Ruhar.
The Ruhar and us, right? Did he show
on that side? I don't think there were any others.
Did he? He didn't really show us any more "quote unquote" good guys, right?
Well, I mean, and again, like you were saying, that's not a really accurate way of describing them. I mean, it's good in the sense that
we're in the same. We're underneath the same umbrella.
Yeah. Well, we're not though. We're not though. Well, remember, we get pulled in by the Christang. So technically, we were originally pulled into this bullshit.
Yeah.
As like a tier 4 client for the Christang, which is over on the Max Salt side.
Yeah.
But we start screwing them up and pissing them off. We just piss everybody off.
Yeah,
that's what humans do.
But yeah, I always thought that was weird. Like, I'm like, we didn't really get any extra guys on the other side. I thought that would be kind of cool to see, if the Ruhar had any more people, the Draptha had any more people underneath them. And I mean, maybe they didn't, and and maybe it's because the Rindaloo were more choosy on who they allow in their coalition. I don't,
Well, I mean, sure. I think that is probably really close to the actual reality of that. I mean, the Rindaloo. Well, the one thing that we haven't talked about when it comes to the Rindaloo is they are very, 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 very slow to do anything. So hell, they could have applications for some, and we'll deliberate on it for the next 30 years, and we'll let you know.
Yeah, because the Rindaloo are so ancient that before Skippy comes into the picture and humans start messing with shit, is the Rindaloo think that they've seen it all. They still look for the elders' stuff from time to time, but they pretty much kind of think they have it all figured out. They've been around so long. They're so powerful. They're so in their mind, and kind of in reality, they are so apex, even to their rival, the Maxalks. They're so apex that they don't need to act, so they act so slowly. They're just like, maybe we'll go check out this solar system that got exploded, but we'll get to it in a year or two.
I like that you bring up a solar system getting exploded, but we don't say what did that. So we can kind of skirt around the spoilers by not connecting the dots.
I mean, I just randomly thought of something. I mean, all kinds of shit happens in this series that would blow your mind. So
one thing I wanted to bring up too, something that I love about the way that Craig, handles the progression of like abilities and just cool factor and shit like that. If he does introduce a new ability for Skippy, or just even the ones that I already brought up, the micro wormholes, for instance, if he introduces a new application for something that Skippy can do, it's not forgotten. It's not a one and done. They will continue to use those, new applications of what abilities he can do going forward. Like, for instance, he invents a whole new branch of math to jump hyperspace jump through wormholes. There comes a time where they start implementing that with his micro wormholes, and they'll start doing crazy cool shit that breaks the brains of even the tier 1 species. And that's something I love about the series, where once something's introduced, it goes right into the pocket of the Skippy the Magnificent to pull out upon request.
Yeah, I mean, it builds his toolbox.
Mm.
And then also, after a while, he starts compounding things. It's like, okay, I have this tool, but I can also use it in conjunction with this thing that we did earlier. And as the reader, as you've continued to take this on, and whenever we start a new book, and again, after you're 7-8 books in, you start wondering yourself, like, okay, yeah, that would work. Yeah, you're almost like trying to form a strategy with them. You're like, okay, how would we break into this unbreakable planet or fortress or whatever they do? You're like, well, how would you do it? And then whatever Craig reveals it through Skippy or Joe, you're like, dang it, why didn't I think of that? That makes perfect sense.
It will constantly keep you on your feet. That's for sure. On the tips of your toes. And one of the cooler aspects of like Skippy and his repertoire and the things he does and stuff like that too is Skippy himself. Well, okay. I guess is the better way of saying it. So when it comes down to, he's got a lot of cool, badass things and stuff like that. But as we said earlier, he doesn't apply them in a lateral sense. There's one aspect of his abilities that I don't think that applies to. And that is anything whatsoever in cyberspace. Like when it comes to him hacking into everything else's environments and taking over another ship's whatever, all of its different what's the word, life support systems and weapon systems and things like that. Like if he actually has the access to get into that machine, he's going to ass fuck it. He's going to just wreck it.
Yeah, because and we learned this right off the bat, so this isn't like major spoilers or anything. He's 1 million years old, at least. Yeah. So you have 1 million-year-old AI going up against a 50,000-year-old to sometimes maybe 300,000-year-old, technology. Yeah, if he can get in, they're nothing. They can't, like, there are a few times where he's like, oh, that guy was kind of that and I love how how Skippy refers to other AIs almost like they're people, where he's like, oh yeah, that guy, Phil, like, and Craig gives all these AIs and stuff different names. He's like, oh yeah, Phil was kind of pissed that I was in there, but yeah, he couldn't hold out for more than about 10 seconds.
I just turned off his voice after a while. I was tired of hearing him bitch. Just definitely lots of stuff like that. But anything tech related, he's going to completely blow it away. But when it comes down to the creative applications of things that Skippy can do, I mean, another example, completely devoid of context, is at one point they talk about hyperspace and the way the hyperspace jumps work. If you exit hyperspace, you're exiting at the flattest plane of space-time. So like it's chaotic. You can't predict it because, like at any given moment in in space, the flattest position in space, would fluctuate because of the way that, space will warp and shit. And at one point, Joe is like, well, can't we predict where they're going to come out? And Skippy goes and tells him that like he's a dumbass. He's like, no, here's why you can't do that, you stupid monkey. And then Joe comes back and goes, well, didn't you just say earlier that you were able to flatten space? He's like, well, yeah, but what the hell does that have to do with? And then, of course, he trails off and he goes, I hate you.
I hate you. I hate my life.
So, at that point, now they know how, if they're predicting where somebody's going to come in, if they know that, tier 1 species is going to jump in at, a certain coordinate, Skippy can flatten the space there to force the ship to come out where they want. And then they can start dropping bombs on these bastards before they get their shields up and stuff. I mean, it's creative applications of the things that Skippy can do, which makes us have a fighting chance.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know about you guys, you guys that are watching, if you want to throw in the comments, but even though I feel like, and Nathan, you said that this is hard sci-fi, I didn't feel like this stuff was so serious that I couldn't grasp what he was, the way he's explaining. It really feels like, he explains it well enough that you're like, okay, yeah. I get how Skippy's gonna end up, doing this. And then,
okay, so as I was saying, I would consider it harder. It's got a harder slant. Like there's physics involved. The speed of light's a constant, and they got to work around things that they can't just magic away.
Yeah, I feel like it's very approachable. I mean,
that being said, though, he does keep things vague enough where he can kind of do ass pulls, and you're not going to
if he needs to, or if he wants to.
Yeah, and you're not going to notice because it's relatively vague, but he's still working around things that are constants. He can't just miracle it away. Skippy's not that good.
Don't. I see. I know what you're doing. I see that look on your face. I know what you're thinking about.
I know not what you mean.
Now I think at some point we'll do another one of these, but we'll just go full on spoiler of the whole series. If people want to, if people hit me up and they're like, yeah, this is definitely something I'd be into.
Just next time, let's not waste an hour with you having your damn Yeti mic.
Yeah, for any of you that are watching that were like, yeah, you were supposed to be on at 8:30. Yeah, so I was having all kinds of mic issues. But yeah, so we're just past 11 p.m. So
it's late.
I appreciate all of you for watching. If you're watching this on the rewatch, throw some, any comments, that you want to throw in, anything you'd like to know about, because I answer all the comments. You can ask Nathan anything. I'm sure he'll look at the comments, and he's a lot smarter than I am when it comes to this stuff. He has a photographic memory when it comes to books. I have to reread to know what the hell I'm talking about.
That's the ADHD, man. A hyperfocus.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you jumping on so late and actually making it so that I could actually have this conversation. You are Skippy the Magnificent when it comes to fixing computers, man.
If only I could do a fraction of what that little bastard could do. I definitely have I definitely got his vocabulary, but I don't know about his repertoire crap.
All right. Thank you all for watching, and we will definitely see you in the next one.